Hi, today I'll be coding this pattern with Node.js, no images other than CSS gradients, at most 5 of them, each using at most 3 stops. We're also limited to at most 8 CSS declarations and at most 2 elements, with no pseudo elements, mind you. So what is this pattern? This is the checker version of the café wall illusion. Both these things are going to be linked in the description so you can check out for more detail. So I actually coded this at the very least 4 years ago, judging by the coding style. And as you can see, I'm using almost 200 divs there, and there's quite a bit in terms of Sass, definitely more than those 8 declarations mentioned earlier, and I'm pretty sure there's a lot more in terms of compiled CSS because I see a loop there, so there's probably a lot being generated from that loop. Oh, it's in the hundreds. Oh, it's over 600, so that's a lot. CSS got better, we got better. We're going to do it with a lot less code. So we're going to have 2 elements. The first one is going to be the HTML element. We set just a random background on it. We're going to get back to this in a little while. Now let's move on to the body, which is our second element. And the first thing we do is set a height, which is the full viewport height. So 100 viewport height units. Then we get a scroll bar. Not good. So we set margin 0. And we're done with this part, and we can get to the interesting part, which is the actual background. So this is going to be a repeating gradient, but it's not going to be a linear one. It's going to be a conic one. The reason why I picked linear is because we don't have autocomplete for conic, so yeah, it is what it is. If you haven't seen my article on background patterns with conic gradients, you should really check it out because it explains in a lot of detail how to get checkerboard pattern. You can see it, the one you can see right here. It's exactly the same thing as the green one in the back. I almost said in the black, but we're not summoning Satan tonight. Okay, not tonight, maybe some other night. We also have the diagonal checkerboard pattern, which is pretty similar. It works in a similar fashion, and everything is explained with illustrations. As you can see, we have quite a bunch of these here. And there are also interactive demos. So yeah, everything is explained in a lot of detail in this article, and you'll find the entire explanation for what I'm doing right here. So we're going to start from 45 degrees, and we're going to have a first color, which let's say is going to be white. We're going to go from there to 25%, so that's a quarter. And then we're going to go another quarter with the second color, which is going to be black in this case. And then we're going to go up to 50%. Okay. Now we have that shape. We want to limit it to a smaller background size. So let's set that to, let's say, something like 2 Okay, and here we're going to need to set a background position because we can't set the background size in the shorthand otherwise. And note that we need to set the background size along both dimensions, because if we only set it along the x-axis, then along the second dimension is going to be auto, and this means 100% for gradients. So we need to explicitly set it equal to s. Okay, we have the result we wanted. We add a second gradient, which is going to be a striped gradient, vertical stripes. So linear gradient, 90 degrees. And first we have white up to the midway point, which is going to be 50%, and then we're going to have transparent, and we're going to have a sharp transition there. And as you can see, we have white and then transparent. But we need to limit this to a certain background size. Okay, so in order to do this, we're going to set it here, pre-compute it, so we don't have to write 4 times s a bunch of times. So here we'll be setting it. Okay, and note that here I'm not setting the second background value because it doesn't really matter. It can be 100%. It doesn't matter with vertical stripes. So with vertical stripes, the second value can be whatever, both for the position and for the size. So it doesn't matter where we start along this line and how big the background size is vertically, because it repeats itself anyway. So yeah, now that we've done this, we switch to blending. Actually background blend mode. Okay, and we're going to use difference. And if you don't know what this does, there will be a link to the spec. Okay, so this is going to be a link to the difference blend mode in the spec. If you want me to explain this in detail in an article, let me know. But for now, keep this in mind. If one of the layers that's being blended is white, then the result is the other layer inverted. And if one of the layers that's being blended is black or transparent, then the result is the other layer as it is. So just keep this in mind. So as you can see, the white has been replaced with the inverted version of the other gradient, of the repeating conic gradient, which produces the diagonal checkerboard pattern. Okay, next thing we want is set a mask. So mask, this is going to be linear gradient, and we're going to go at 45 degrees. We're going to have red up to a cutoff value, which, let's say, we're going to pre-compute it here, and it's going to be, I don't know, something like half the size. We can tweak it later. So it's going to be this, and then we're going to have transparent, sharp transition, and then we go all the way to calc 100% minus that cutoff. Okay, then we have red again, sharp transition, and now you can see all that's remaining of the checkerboard pattern is at those corners, so there and there, which means we need to adjust the mask size. So mask size, we don't have autocomplete for this either. Let's pre-compute it here. So it's going to be double, so twice S. So we're going to have D and D again. We need to set it along both dimensions, and now we need a similar gradient along the other direction, minus 45 degrees. But we're going to have this whole part repeated, so we might as well put it in a custom property. So list, it's going to look like this. Now we take this gradient, copy, paste, and use minus here. Okay, and this kind of does it, but it's not where we want the intersection, so we need to offset this. Okay, this should do it. Okay, this looks nice, and we're almost done. We only need to do the checkerboard pattern for the HTML in the back. So this is going to be very similar to this, as I said, because this that's the diagonal checkerboard, and you only need to remove that from 45 degrees, change this to a very light greenish thing, and change this to lime, and change this size to the one that's 4 times bigger, and we have this result. Those corners are a bit too big. Let's make them smaller. Okay, so this is the result we've been after. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you like my work, the work that I've been putting out for more than 8 years now, please consider supporting it. You can do so by being a cool cat and becoming a patron on Patreon, or you can get me something off my Amazon wishlist, or you can at least share this to show the world what can be done with CSS these days, because honestly, I think it's pretty damn cool. You'll find the links for everything, for all the resources mentioned here, for the finished demo, for my Patreon, for the Amazon wishlist. The links for everything are going to be in the description. So see you next time.